Welcome to the Boardroom Sessions podcast. In these sessions, we meet the most amazing and interesting people. We learn about their passions, their business models, cool new technologies, and of course, their lessons on personal growth. I hope you enjoy. In this Boardroom Sessions podcast, we meet Mark Schulein. Mark's the CEO of Crown Ace Hardware, a 23-location hardware company that owns hardware stores across Arizona, California, and Hawaii. Mark and I, as lives have intersected in various different ways, family, business, philanthropy, Waterman, and we discuss all those areas and learn more about Mark. I think you're going to love the guy like we all do. Mark Schulein, welcome to the Boardroom Sessions podcast.
Yeah, Mike, thanks for having me.
Hey, man, I'm super excited about this one. I mean, literally excited about it. You are, I attracted you in my life. I don't know if you know that, but I've been trying to find a bunch of ever-growing, badass hard chargers in my life and get closer to a bunch of them. And you and I have had our paths cross in multiple different areas here, and we're going to use that as our guide for the conversation, the different ways in which our paths have crossed. But let's just give the folks a little bit of a descriptor of who you are, some of the numbers, if you will, by the numbers, if you will. So you went to USD, your local boy, grew up here in Newport Beach.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. My wife and I both went to Corona Del Mar High School. And if you know Newport, there's two high schools, Corona Del Mar and Newport Harbor. My kids have gone to Newport Harbor. So we are house divided.
Yes.
Sea Kings and Sailors.
That's it. And that's a big rivalry, and both very nice places to go to school and beautiful, amazing area to grow up in and around.
We're very blessed.
Yeah. And then you went down to USD for school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you were a Sigma Chi down there, were you not?
I was.
In Hope, bro.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Super cool.
I was a Sigma Chi, but at a far less prestigious school. You're the CEO of Crown Ace.
Yeah.
Family business. Been going around for how many years now?
So it's a long story. We'll keep it short. But my dad bought his first hardware store in the early 70s, and I came in after college in the early mid-90s. And so I'm at 30 years running that company with my dad. My dad retired about 10 years ago, and I brought another business partner on, and
you guys are up to 23 stores and even a coup in Princeville, Hawaii.
Well, like kids, you're not supposed to have a favorite kid or a favorite store, but I might have a favorite store.
Oh, that's fantastic. We are going to dive into deep Crown Ace because that's one of the things in which our paths have crossed, and so we'll dive deeper into that. But let me carry down the list. So you're a surfer, waterman, philanthropist, board member, podcaster now, right? You're doing your podcast, The Passion Project?
Yes, sir.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Mark Schulein Passion Project.
And how's that experience been in a nutshell? I mean,
I love it. This was truly, the name is it is my passion project. This is something I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I'm super stoked. It's been well received, but it's more, we were talking about it, I'm paying to do it. Like, this is my happy place, capturing really good stories of really good people doing really good things, and I love doing it.
Good. That you're good at it. I heard our friend Danny on your podcast, and that's what spurred me to reach out and try and get access to you to get on here.
Well, Danny Nichols was my crash test dummy. He was episode 1.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that was the very first one. So, and he killed it, and super fun.
He's a humble guy though, and so it's hard to get a conversation. I've interviewed Danny, and he's painfully humble.
Yeah,
right?
It took some teasing to get stuff out.
If you don't know the background, if you haven't heard stories from other people, if you haven't heard some of the accolades, he's not going to volunteer them. No, you got to go pull him out.
You have to have the hook. But I mean, I knew enough to ask the right questions, and he was very, very good at sharing the story, and he has a pretty rad, gnarly, divergent story. So I was really proud that he was willing to share it.
Yeah, it was touching, man. It was emotional there for a little bit.
And he's a stud. A lot of how I know you is through him, and what a great guy and what a great organization he runs.
Inspirational guy. Inspirational. As are you, and you're a mentor not only in business but in leadership and in other things here in the Waterman community, in the philanthropist community. And what I would just categorize in general is what I call a hard charger. Somebody who's constantly on, constantly going after it. And more importantly, when you're with people that are doing really hard things, there's another level usually in life of those badass guys. You're absolutely, almost in every environment I've been around you in, seem to elevate to that level of folks. And so
here's what I've said my whole life, Mike. I'm better than a lot of people, and there's a lot of people better than me. And that goes for sport, business, philanthropy, or anything else I'm involved in. But I love the game of all these. I love doing these things. Again, I'm kind of a passionate person, and I love being able to do those things. And if I can help right now the younger generation get passionate about doing stuff like channel crossings and philanthropy, it just fills my bucket. So love doing all that stuff.
Take that energy and use it. You're a hard charger, so let's go. All right, so the first place that we our paths have crossed was at Crown Ace, and so knowingly or not knowingly, I guess we didn't know each other in that capacity. But I've been a loyal patron of your Adams and Magnolia location in Huntington Beach for 25 plus years. Countless seasons of Christmas and barbecue season. I've watched you. And the different logos and branding that you have within the stores, right? Yeah. I've experienced amazing and unbelievable customer service out of that organization. The people, they're lifers, right? It's a sought after role for the older guys. I bet there's a line out the door of guys with their glasses around their neck that couldn't wait to have a job of solving problems all day with flux capacitors and, and things like that, you know? But people need that kind of help. And so, I've been a loyal patron, and so I've been very impressed about that brand. And then when I heard that, you and I met, and that was the family business, I couldn't wait to hear about it. So, for one, tell us a little bit about the business, where it is today, and what's going on there. And then I really want to dive into how you build the culture and lead the organization to do the service that you do, the customer service.
I mean, it might even be better to start with the culture side of it, because we're a culture-driven company. We're a relationship-driven company, and we're basically a customer service company that specializes in hardware. So our whole business model is being super centric to the community, being the place you go to get everything that you need, and with helpful staff. I mean, that's my whole thing. So for us, one of the many mantras that I operate with is, in my business, there's a number of, and I could go down a whole list of the things that I kind of live by and the business lives by, but one of them, we're very inventory focused, because if you come in, as great as the service I may provide, if we don't have what you're looking for, you're going to leave empty-handed. So we have to have the right stuff for the community and for your project.
And it's local, right?
Super hyper local.
So we live in a suburbia here in Huntington Beach, and most of the suburbia was built in chunks and patches, right? Yeah. So I would imagine there's a lot of original hardware that goes with these different areas, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the Landmark, and there's these other places and neighborhoods. I imagine they all have different things that you need to supply.
Yeah, that's the nature of our business. The majority of our stores have, let's say it's 80-ish% of the stuff we carry is universal, and then the rest is special to the community. Every community has a different mix of whether it be legacy homes or brands or sports, whatever the community may be into, we try to specialize in.
Yeah.
But going back to the culture, the other part that I was going to say is being a culture-driven company and being a customer service company, what we live by is the best place to work makes for the best place to shop. So we try to be a world-class employer to keep our people, to have that longevity, to have super engagement, because you're not going to get great customer service from somebody that's grumpy, unhappy, or miserable at work. So we really try to make it fun and enjoyable. And again, and that goes back to our culture focus is, and for me, like, I love going to work because I love our people. People are super happy, and nothing happens in my world without them doing a really good job taking care of the community.
Yeah. You can feel it, and there's no doubt about it. And you have lifers, you have people that have been there forever. As long as I've been going to your store, they're still working there.
Well, we have a really good cross section because we have, as you mentioned, we have a lot of retired folks. If you've been working until you're 65 years old, 50, 40 hours a week, you can't just flip a switch and turn off. You have to have something to retire to. So we have lots of people that come out of the trades or engineers or people that just love to tinker, or they just want to stay busy and get out of the house, or maybe the wife kick the husband out, go
Yeah,
go
do
away, go
something,
spend a couple hours out there.
Go solve some problems
We have wonderful people of all ages. And then we also employ high school students and college students. We have people that are working their way through college on the way to their career. So oftentimes we're a jumping off point. We help them get where they're going. And sometimes we help people when they've completed their career and they want something to do. So we really fill, and then we have a full career segment of people that are our leaders that this is what they do.
Yeah.
This is their life.
I imagine with 23 locations, how's that scale gone from your family business to a much bigger business?
Yeah. So I started, my dad was a baller, super smart, super hardworking. My parents started with zero, full American dream. And my dad bought the first hardware store that we have in Corona del Mar, Southern California, when I was 5 years old. So in the early 70s. And so I grew up in and around him, and I watched him continue to build stores. And I started working retail in surf shops when I was 13 years old. So I've been retail better part of my life. I worked surf shops all the way through high school and into college. And so I've always had that retail bug and the service bug and the gift of the gab to some degree. But my dad was the entrepreneur. So when I graduated from college, and I've got 2 degrees that have nothing to do with running hardware stores.
Isn't that funny how that works out?
Yeah, but I have the retail background and the people thing, and I've got an art degree, which really is translated into some of what you talked about, the look and feel of the stores. It's really interesting how who would have thought that my art degree would have helped run hardware stores, but it certainly has, from a design, layout, flavor, feel. So it's been really interesting. But my dad, when I started post-college, a couple of years post-college with my dad, he already had 8 stores. So I definitely got to start, I had a full-blown vision of what it took and how it worked. And he, from a parenting perspective, he's like, this is your job, dude. You're going to go work for other people in the business. You're not working for me. You're going to work for Joe in the store, and you're going to go figure out how to do all this stuff. And my dad and I kind of went nose to nose. I was a bit of a punk. So he wasn't going to just let me have the easy road. I definitely had to earn my way through the company. My older brother, who's a doctor and awesome, he got fired when he was a kid. So there was no guarantee of this job. I definitely had to earn my way through, and it was super challenging. I always say that I worked for my dad for 20 years before he retired. Some of the hardest and probably some of the most pride-making years, but it was fucking hard. Pardon my French. Family business is tough.
Oh yeah,
it's not for everybody.
I have a good friend, Jenny Denton. Well, I wouldn't call her a great friend, but she's in my networking group, and we've talked about it. I find her passion around this inspirational. But she's into the family business. She consults and coaches family-run operations and does things in that regard. She was giving me some statistics, and I think the statistics she gave me was 70% of all American corporations over a certain size are family-run. Right, the dollar amount, 70% of the dollars in those corporations are family run, and so you think about it. I went back to my bag of business, the accounts that I help. SC Fuels, local family run company, right? In-N-Out Burger, local family run company, and there's a lot of those big ones under the radar that you just don't know.
And when everybody's watching the stock market and you're watching Squawk on the Street, you're listening to the big public companies because they're huge, biggest companies in the history of mankind. I mean, that's what we're dealing with when you're talking about the Home Depots and the Costcos and the Walmarts. But that's not, to your point, that's 30% of business. 70% is mom and pop trying to make it, one-off little stores, maybe more. But it's the U.S. American economy is built on small family biz.
Yeah, and one of the things that's different, she was trying to challenge me to think differently, was in yours it's pretty linear. You can think about it like the family business is the Crown Ace franchise, right? Like those stores, that operation, that profit model, right? She was challenging me to think that there are a lot of families that she works with, family-run businesses, where you could be in completely different businesses, but the family looks like it's a family business. Like think private equity, right? Like, oh, Jane goes into business doing whatever, but maybe she's doing whatever, but that might still contribute to the family business, right? And so everybody's invested in everybody's well-being, everybody's invested in everybody's success, everybody's available to invest, things of that nature. If you think about it differently, it's just a different mindset. But kudos to you in the business. It's thriving and doing well.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. My dad retired, as I said, 10 years ago, and I brought on a business partner, my buddy Matt, who is I call him an idiot savant, more idiot than savant, but he's brilliant and we're a great partnership. My wife would say that we're two halves of the same brain. What he's really, really gifted at, I'm not. And I also don't enjoy doing it. So I was able to jettison that when he came on. And what I'm really good at, or hopefully good at, is stuff that it's not in his wheelhouse. So we really work well together. We have the same passion for our team and for doing good things for the communities that we're in. And it's really been a breath of fresh air for me to have my dad gave me 2 rules financially growing up. And he said, 1, don't carry a balance on your credit card. 2, don't ever take on a business partner. Well, my first business partner was my dad.
Right.
And my second one was Matt, but it's been life-changing and business-changing for us having Matt in my house.
And that's I find that very useful to have a partner that challenges you in different areas, right? That complements you in different areas so you guys can stay in your swim lanes and do well. We could dive way deep into the business, but for the sake of this podcast, I'd like to dive into a couple different areas. Okay.
Let's go.
So another area in which we've crossed paths is in what I would call community service work, philanthropy, volunteering, whatever you want to refer to it as. You and I work together to help our buddy Danny and Open Water and the great group of folks that are over there, and we'll dive into that a little bit deeper, that one in particular. But you are connected with and board member of many, many philanthropies, long history of it. You know people in this business. You know people that are in that as a service. You seem to be a serial volunteerer. Tell us about that. When did that passion come?
Yeah, you know what? I'm really lucky. My parents, as they were starting to have some success, really believed in community and giving back. And they were very active. But before they had money, they would spend their time. So they were very active in the community. And my mom was very involved with homelessness in Orange County, family homelessness, more so than anything else. My dad, at one point, my dad took on a board role of an organization, a nonprofit that he wasn't that passionate about. I'm like, he was involved in, but he wasn't looking for leadership. I'm like, Dad, why did you take it? He's like, someone needed to run it well and nobody else was stepping up. And I'm like, I always respected that. So it was osmosis. I was watching this, like my parents really led by example. And my brothers and I have all kind of followed very differently. My older brother has done Doctors Without Borders all over the world for decades. My younger brother is very involved locally in some stuff. And I'm really lucky that there's a bunch of organizations like Open Water, like the Ben Carlson Foundation, and many others that are doing really good stuff for the communities through the ocean, which is my happy place. So if I can dovetail my passions for endurance, open water stuff with organizations that are leveraging that to do good, it's a win-win. And in a nutshell, I fell into running an organization called the Ocean of Hope, which was a nonprofit fundraiser for.
I have 2 team jackets from Ocean of Hope.
Okay.
I've done 2 races with the team as a team rider from on the Rock to Rock, right?
Yeah.
And so I met at an NAC event and Amy
Spector.
And put my name on a list. And then when I did the event, I raised some money for the organization. She gave me 2 beautiful, each year different jacket, but team jackets, and they're beautiful Patagonia engraved with O2O.
Mike, I had no idea. So Amy was my successor. I was so fortunate. So my buddy Keith started it with my friend Susie Leiter. Susie passed away of cancer, and she was a nurse, and she started that organization. My friend Keith Minimitsu took a year off from work and dedicated that year to fundraising for Susie and the Sarcoma Alliance. They both went to Newport Harbor High School, and I was Ocean of Hope paddler number 2. I heard about it, and I'm like, I got to meet this guy. I got to get involved, and I did. Susie passed in 2002, and I took over. Keith stepped out, and so I ran it for 10 years. And learned a lot about philanthropy through the ocean. I had a good friend of mine. One of the biggest educations I got, and just a quick story, Mike, I had put out a solicitation out to the prone paddling world. This is in 2002.
For the listeners, prone paddling is the when you're laying down on your belly, occasionally mixing it up by getting on your knees and paddling.
But you're paddling like a big surfboard. So you're using your arms, and the race that we do is primarily at the time the Catalina Classic, 32 miles from Catalina to Manhattan Beach Pier. It's tough, but it's awesome. And we'll talk more about that. But in a nutshell, I ended up taking over that organization, ran it, and learned a lot about philanthropy. I made some mistakes. A very good friend of mine named Ron Roebuck shined a light on one of those early on, and it really helped me understand the impact and how to run an organization that's doing stuff like this with the ocean. And it was magical for me to really, and it was hard, but I learned so much. And then I was done. Like I'd done it for a long time. It was taxing and it needed a breath of fresh air. And I was very lucky to find Amy Spector, who I knew from the water community, and she's incredible. And she ran it for another 10 years.
She wrote me in from the moment I met. I bought a hat because I thought it was a cool looking hat.
So, and then Amy ran it for another 10 years. But here's what I also learned about nonprofits. You can have the best idea in the world. You can have the best, most passionate plans. If you don't have community, leadership, and funding, it won't exist. And today, Ocean of Hope does not exist because after Amy, the parent company didn't commit to it. They never found a replacement because it's hard. A lot of people don't want to take on roles like that. I recognize that so much because when you do it, it's not that it's thankless. There's a ton of pride, but these are unpaid positions and you're working your tail off and you can only do it for so long. And it's really good to change, but you've got to always, just like in business, you always have to be developing the next leaders. And it's hard in a position that's unpaid, time consuming, and takes a lot of passion. Hard to find those folks.
And that passion is a gap in energy, right? And something's going to give, right? It's either going to be work or family or some other kind of balance. It's going to another taxing thing. However, just by seeing your background and seeing your LinkedIn profile and all the people that you're a part of, go into your stores, you can feel it, right? You've got campaigns going on one place or another. There's some give your change for something at some
Our
point.
roundup. Yeah. So we have, we have this great partnership with every one of our communities because every month we have a campaign running in every single store and it's our roundup. So when you're at the register and if you spend $10.27, we'll ask you if you want to round up to $11 for whatever campaign we're working on. And that campaign is always hyper local, super specific to the community, whether it's the Children's Hospital locally, whether it's Open Water or the Ben Carlson Foundation, or it can be anything. Every community that we serve, we reach out and search out hyper local, super important organizations that we can support. And it's a community. I mean, the money isn't ours. This is customers' money going towards a great thing. We're just the
facilitator.
We're the facilitators of it,
yeah.
But it's a total partnership.
And so real quick, I want to dive into jump in real quick to the Ben Carlson Foundation, right? So for those who don't know who Ben Carlson was and what you guys do every year, why don't you tell us?
Yeah, so Ben Carlson was a lifeguard in Newport Beach. He passed away, it's the 10-year anniversary. So it was over 4th of July weekend in 2004. And he passed away in the line of duty in a gigantic swell, Hurricane Marie, massive surf, made a rescue, and then never came up. I just got chicken skin. Since that time, the outpouring of community support, that was the first lifeguard to die in the line of duty in 100 years in Newport Beach. And it's a super coastal community, very passionate. And the community just galvanized around this loss. And today you can go see the Ben Carlson statue down at Newport Pier. The lifeguard headquarters is called the Ben Carlson Lifeguard Headquarters. We have Ben Carlson Day on July 6th. It is this humongous event. And one of the big fundraisers, or it's a humongous supported organization doing really good things. And it's all about water prevention, drowning prevention.
Scholarships, youth scholarship, material and life-saving equipment to
for
other countries.
Underserved. Yeah. So it's really, really an amazing group. We were actually together last night for the board meeting. I serve on their board. But when I heard about it, so the big fundraising campaign, the biggest of the year, is called the Ben Did Go, kind of modeled after that Eddie would go. So these are lifeguards that lost their lives in the ocean, in the service of others. And the stud local Newport kid who isn't a kid anymore, but just an amazing guy named Spencer Purdy, who was friends with Ben. Spencer did in Ben's honor 9 years ago, he kind of followed what the Joe Bark paddle run paddle is. And what that is he paddled from Newport to Catalina, which was, I think he did the 28-mile route on Friday. On Saturday, he ran the Catalina Marathon, and then on Sunday, he paddled back.
By the way, the Catalina Marathon is voted every single year as one of the top 5 hardest marathons in the United States. And go think about that for a minute.
It's also the most beautiful because when you're up on the ridgeline, you're looking left at California and right, you're looking at Hawaii. That's my favorite marathon. I've done that paddle run paddle a few times. It's one of my favorite things. But he did that solo in Ben's honor, and it got a lot of attention. We're now on year 9. We have 190 people signed up to do it on September 14th. That paddle goes from Avalon to Newport Pier, 30 miles, and it's a fundraiser. Last year it raised about $250,000, again, towards the scholarships and the underserved community, lifeguards, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really an amazing organization, super embedded in the community. And there's been some really interesting connection between the Ben Carlson Foundation, kind of Newport based, but they're also on a global scale now. So there's been a lot of connections with other cities, other countries, all based on, unfortunately, on the loss of Ben Carlson.
Yeah, but way to turn that around, right? And make that something and turn it into something different, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. As an ex-lifeguard, I spent 6 years in the lifeguard tower as a young man. I'm ever indebted to that group and ever trying to stay in touch with that part of my life, right? And that the Waterman life. And so that leads us into another segment of way in which we've met each other, and we've been alluding to it here during some of the things that you do with your passion around it, is Waterman activities, what I would call, right? Mm-hmm. And so for the folks that don't listen or aren't Watermen that are listening, I should say when I refer to Waterman, I'm thinking about multiple different disciplines within the water, right? And the ocean, like know your way around the water, know how to dive in the water, know how to swim in the water, know how to paddle in the water, know your way around multiple different paddle crafts, right? Know the different ways in which you get after it. You are apex in this world, right? And so you're very much into that, into the Waterman world, and raced and competed and compete and go into these, not just a channel crossing, but you go to a channel crossing thinking, is there an opportunity for me to win this race?
Nope. I'm going to correct you there.
No.
I've never been in, I was always very competitive, but like I said earlier, I'm better than a lot of people. A lot of people are better than me. I was never elite. I was always like in the long distance races, I was always the front of the chase pack, but I was never in the lead pack.
Okay. You seem like that kind of guy to me. You're definitely fit like that kind of guy. So let's talk about the Catalina Channel crossing. Yeah. All right. So one of the philanthropies we alluded to here is open water. That's how Danny Nichols and we all got in that triangle that overcrossed, right? Yeah. Overlapped. Open water serves the first responder and veteran community, right? We help worry about doing traumatic experiences so that we can recover and forget that certain things in our life, and also learn how to go from sympathetic reactions to parasympathetic reactions. And we do a lot of pool workouts and things of that nature. And that's how we've met. And we had a really great opportunity on November 11th last year, to do a crossing together. And we met out there a couple of different times, saying, hey, out there on the channel, which leads me to want to ask some questions around the Catalina Channel crossing, right? It's done many different ways, different races, different routes, right? But there's nothing shorter than 22 and a half miles, I think, is like the closest route, point to point, to Palos Verdes. But other than that, there's various different lengths, some 30, we did 33 last November. There's the Catalina Classic, which is 32, but a very hard 32. And so they're all different.
Hard. Hold on. Any distance across ocean like that is hard. It's just, is it fun hard or is it brutal hard? And that's going to be based on how well you train and what the weather does that day. Right?
And it's weather dependent. So give us some rundowns. How many crossings have you done?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying the Catalina Channel is one of those things for me that it's pretty freaking sacred. Whether it be just the accomplishment of, if you live in California, or if you've spent any time on the beach in Southern California, you look at that island, it's 30 miles off of Orange County. And some days you can see it, some days you can't. If you fly into John Wayne Airport, you're going to fly over it, you're going to see it, but it's 30 miles of ocean. So to be able to paddle across that, and I always tell the young guns and the Ben Carlson group, I always get up and kind of speak and say, listen, if you're a young stud, male or female, you're a lifeguard, surfer, whatever, and you're on the beach and you see that island, when you cross that channel, not only will you have a sense of pride of doing it, but you'll never look at that island the same way. And if you're a dude sitting on the beach next to a pretty girl, you go, I paddled that. There's some gravitas to that too. But you know what? There's weather, and I think lots of places probably have similar. If you live in Oahu, it's the Molokai to Oahu, or even the the Maui to Molokai. Those channel crossings are iconic. They're challenging, they're pride inducing, and it's a big physical feat, and it's a huge accomplishment when you do it. And when we have people do it on the open water crossing, it's kind of like crossing the equator to me. Especially your first time, when you're going across, unless you're in a race, I always try to get people to stop in the middle. And in the Ben Carlson, we stop in the middle and we swim down, just as kind of like it's a statement. It's an incredible opportunity just to recognize what you're doing.
We stopped in the middle on 11:11 and did the drop the rock
ceremony. Drop the rock. And that's to kind of jettison something, let it go,
let
right?
it go.
It's really powerful.
We said a prayer together. We had the highest ranking military person lead the prayer, and then we all sat in a circle, splashed like water people do, and dropped a rock and try and let something go.
Yeah. And so this year I was very fortunate. I did that crossing 3 times. One for the open water, one for the Ben Carlson, and one for the Wild Buffalo race.
Which is a group race, right?
That's an outrigger. No, it's an individual. So that one is it's outrigger and surf ski race. You can do it most people do it as a relay. So 2 people on and off the boat. Mm-hmm. So you're only doing half distance, but a dozen of us did it solo.
Oh,
and that was 34 miles. And we've been blessed this year. We had all 3 of those crossings at good weather. Rarely does that happen. The Catalina Classic last year had terrible conditions, like some of the worst they've ever had. My first time ever doing the Catalina Classic, again, 32 miles, was in 1996. So I'm dating myself here, but we had the worst conditions. It was brutal. The boards were much more primitive, no rudders at the time. Prone paddle boards, the big ones have rudders. Terrible conditions, and it just half the field didn't finish. That never happened. So I've seen that channel in every different light, and you really want to, like my nerves, my wife always goes, oh, the week leading up to a crossing, you're just way melancholy. And there's so much like concern and worry. Cause again, it can be a really fun, hard day or really brutal, hard day, but it's never easy.
No, it's not. And it never ceases to amaze me, the visual trickery that goes on when you're out there. I think I'm going one direction. I think I need to counter and go in a different direction based on what I'm seeing on the horizon, and I'm way off.
You can't trust it.
You just can't trust your eyes.
But let me jump in real quick, Mike. So for anybody listening that you don't know, because Mike, you shine a light on the people in the other chair on your podcast. But so anybody knows, Mike, how many times have you crossed that channel?
7 times so far.
All on stand-up?
1 time on prone.
On prone. So we call prone boards, again, it's like paddling a big surfboard, the pain stick, because it's the slowest craft. Stand-up to me is as hard or harder. And you've to have done that crossing 6 times stand-up, like you get Waterman chops, big awards for that. That is a incredible accomplishment. So you can shine lights on other people, but you get all kinds of praise for doing that. And you did that for fundraising for open water. Really cool.
Just so everybody knows, our role in this is cheerleaders, right? So we're running around cheering people on that have worked really hard to try and do this, and it keeps us working out too, right? Because we got to, and you do laps out there on your craft. You're on the surf ski, so you're faster and more nimble. Plus, you're just a badass, so you're going up and back and making everybody feel happy about their day.
Well, you know what's interesting for me? So first and foremost, open water is supporting first responders and veterans. I was never in the military, and I only served as a lifeguard for 1 year. So we are there. I'm there 100% as a cheerleader and as support, and paddling the surf ski, which is a racing open water kayak that I paddle, gives me a lot more distance. And for me, when I was competitively racing the Catalina Classic, I would try to be as close to the front as I possibly could, typically in the front of the chase pack. But I always wondered what it was like in the back. Because it's the same distance, it's just a little slower. And I learned through marathon running, the people way ahead of me were still walking through water stations and stuff. And I realized very quickly, it's just some people paddle faster, some are slower. It doesn't change your level of fitness. You just may not be as fast. So now being able to do this in a little bit different way on a different craft, being able to go to the very back and see if I can motivate, inspire, or just chat with people, get them out of their heads. Because if you're in the pain cave, sometimes just having a chat, or hey, go paddle. Mike's over there. Go paddle with Mike and just talk. Mm-hmm. And it changes everything. But if you're out there by yourself hurting and you're not engaged, like it just goes, you go deep. You can go dark fast. So I just play this role of kind of perimeter control, make sure everybody's all right, but also gives me the opportunity just to go chat with people. And as my paddle training partners would always say, like, Schulein will talk the whole time. If I can talk, I can run. If I could talk, I can paddle. And I'm now kind of more of an OG guy where I can go help people make it across, whether it be from a motivation or inspiration or just technique, whatever it may be.
And we found a role, right? We found a role where we can help. And there's a role to be played in all kinds of different areas. And you're bringing leadership advice into the board level, right? When we're out there being cheerleaders, we're being cheerleaders. There's also byproduct people. It keeps us fit, right? Yeah. I have to keep maintaining my fitness or I'm not going to be able to do that paddle. And so it makes me go out there and paddle. We saw each other out front here before the podcast. I have my paddleboard on my car right now.
And you surfed this morning.
Yeah, I'm working on a personal triathlon. So a personal triathlon for Mike would be surf, a paddleboard session, as well as a hot yoga. If I can get all three in today, which I'm scheduled 5:30 to 6:30 today, I think I'll make it.
Oh, that's a sign of success right there if you can pull that off. And keep your day job working. Yes,
I had multiple appointments today. I've been highly productive, and we're recording a podcast. So let's talk a little bit about some more here on the philanthropy note, right? So this is what I would like to get across to the folks is we kind of found our way into these really cool that overlap into our lifestyles. I find that for some people, it's really hard to find a groove in finding a cause that you can get behind, right? You mentioned your dad stumbling his way into a philanthropy. What kind of advice would you give to the average Joe who doesn't have something that they're connected with, but definitely wants to give back and be of use?
Well, my assumption is that everybody has something that they're into in this world, right? If you're into playing golf, I guarantee you there's some golf related philanthropies that you can get involved in. And again, and then it depends on define involved. I'm doing air quotes here. Is it just financial? Is it your time and energy? Is it, there's a lot of ways to give.
Something to get excited about.
Yeah, and I think that it comes down to, I've served on a couple boards where they are doing incredible stuff, but it didn't speak to me the same way. So it's kind of like dating. Sometimes you got to try out some different ones, see if this works for you. See, if you have a skill set that can really benefit someone or something, there are so many organizations out there. And that was one of the questions I asked Danny in our interview. I'm like, Danny, there's a lot of organizations that serve first responders and veterans. And he's like, yeah, there's like 40,000 or more in the US. I'm like, why do you need one more? And he's like, well, they're not doing this and this. We provide this and this and this. And that gets me super fired up, like what they're doing and why. So for anybody that's going, I've got some time or I've got money or I want to do more, I want to feel passionate, like there's a million out there. Just look around and see if you can dovetail your passions with the good work that other people are doing, and I promise you'll find something out there.
That's fantastic advice. And I also think that you said if you have some time, I find it more rewarding if I'm inconvenienced, if that makes sense. Meaning that I've got that board meeting on the calendar and I'm like, I have so many other things I'd rather do than go to that board meeting tonight. But then I go to that board meeting and I come back and I'm like, and I feel like I got a bump. I feel like I've helped, like there's something going on.
That's interesting.
So it's almost better if I'm inconvenienced, I think.
Well, what I think that shows is everybody has a different way to get to the end goal. Like I get fired up when I can go like, fuck, I get to go to a board meeting tonight for the Ben Carlson Foundation and see what good things we can put together because I know what I can provide and I also know what I can't provide. So I when I get involved with boards or any organization, I'm like, here's what I'm good at potentially, but I'm not going to focus, like you're not going to ask, I'll be your secretary because I take good notes, but I'm not going to be your controller. I'm not going to be the financial lead. Like you don't want me there. Like
maybe there are people that help, right? Like so Dave serves a role helping as a business leader, in a philanthropy that he knows he knows a lot about being a business leader. So he's happy to help there. So there's all kinds of ways in which you can help, right? Just being an adult qualifies you for some of the charities, right? Meaning that like CASA, for example, the advocates for the kids that are in the system, you know what I mean? You can just go and literally sign up and then you have a say in some kid's life, right? You could go, there's so many different ways.
If you love horses, you can go work with the horses. If you love golf or football, there's going to be ways to go help. If you want to go work with kids or work with the elderly, listen, if people have time, money, and inclination, or any one of those, You don't need to have money. You probably need to have a little bit or be able to execute some time. But if you have a passion for something, you'll find a way to make it work. But inevitably, there's no lack of opportunity or need out there for people that are willing or desiring helping.
And it can get local, get community, right? You can get it at a local level and run into people all the time that you see, like I do, right? We go over to NAC and it's like, oh, hey, bro, hey, how's it going? We're all working together.
Totally.
So on the theme of paths connecting or interconnecting, right? Ways in which we've met. We originally met the very first time, you and I, at the University of Oregon at the
graduate
hotel in the lobby, right?
Yeah,
and
crazy
so
story.
Two Huntington local guys, Huntington Beach, Newport, and we saw each other in a lobby and started talking about surfing. And
you looked like somebody I would know. I mean, that's basically, and we ended up just starting to chat.
I think I was talking about a wetsuit with one of the ladies, and you said, "Did I hear a wetsuit?" No, I was like, "Okay." We started talking.
Yeah, like winter in Eugene, Oregon. Talking wetsuits is probably not a common conversation.
So is your daughter that went to school there?
I've got 2 kids there, right?
2.
Still currently. My son just finished his junior year and he'll be back in a couple days. And my daughter just finished her sophomore year and she just came home yesterday. And then I've still got a 13-year-old at home.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So that's where I wanted to go, was fatherhood, right? So let's talk about life lessons and raising kids, right? And this is one of those questions I love to ask my buddies, and putting them on the spot's hard, and especially with a microphone in front of your face. But I find that fatherly advice comes, it comes in chunks, it comes in waves, and usually we have mottos. Guys like you are the kind of guy that, has thought and intention around it. What are your thoughts on fatherhood?
Oh, listen, I am blessed to have my kids. They're all completely different. And I love them all for their differences. Is it always easy? But is it rewarding always? For sure. I follow kind of the mantra, and my wife and I, Randy and I, are completely aligned. I kind of follow my parents' approach, and they always looked at, or maybe it was my dad first, but my parents looked at school, and especially college, as a job. They fortunately had the financial ability to support me in school, so I did not have to work through school. A lot of my friends did. My business partner had to pay his way through 100%. I was blessed not to, but they said, listen, it's a job. And they said, you keep a 3.0 and you graduate in 4 years, or you're on your own. So I was scared. I mean, they made it very clear. So I was like scared silly to make sure I kept that 3.0 average. And I found that I worked way hard. I was always very independent, and my parents didn't have to harp on me to do my homework or clean my room, but I wasn't always the nicest kid. But when I got to college and I started to be able to do what I really liked in school, I really found my happy place. And I want my kids to find that. I'm a big believer in travel. So my son's going abroad this summer. If they're good kids and they're working hard, I will support them. I want them to be able to see the world, but it's all a job. Everything is a job. So I really equate it to what my parents did. And I want to be a cool dad, but I'm not always an easy dad. Like, I have high expectations and I want them to be good people. But I think doing what I do, I think osmosis is important. I think success leaves clues. My son Gianni wants to be successful. And I think watching me and who I hang out with, I'm a big believer proximity is power. I know you are too. Who you hang out with is who you become. So he's watching me hang out with other high performers, both in business and in sport. And that's who you become. So if you hang out with low performers, you become a low performer. If you hang out with really high performers, that's who you become. So I really push him that way, and he's gravitated towards that. He's a good athlete and he's really driven. So I think my wife and I are pretty consistent, and we provide a lot to the kids. My kids love chatting. They're FaceTiming my wife all the time. I remember college, now we didn't have cell phones, but I wasn't calling my parents very often, but with cell phones and my kids are interacting with us all the time, which is super cool. I guess that means they like us a little bit. And then the final part about it is, we're very blessed. We have a store in Hawaii, which I mentioned. We have a house over there as well. My business partner, Matt, his family and I, we were able to go in on one. But we're also smart enough to recognize that at some point, our kids aren't going to want to hang out with us unless we can entice them with cool stuff. So
like a pad in Prince.
Like a pad in Hawaii, and we love to travel and we love to take them with us. And so far, they mostly say yes. So we're very blessed that so far, so good.
That's awesome. That's a question that gets asked by me all the time of my friends, right? And so I love to hear the different answers, and the proximity is power. My dad said it a different way. He said, "You are who you hang out with," was how he used to phrase it to me. Yep. And I used to deny it and say, "Oh, maybe I'm helping my buddies. Maybe they might not be where we are, but maybe I'm helping them," that kind of thing. And he was like, "No, that guy's a loser, and you're hanging with that guy. You're gonna hang out like you're gonna ultimately become."
Well, let me ask you this, Mike. So we were walking in. You were telling me where you're going next before you go paddle. You have one of the philanthropies organizations that you work with. Sounds like exactly that. So what are you doing? Who do you work with? This one that you were talking about earlier.
Oh, so I teach a class, to wayward youth, if you will, and I teach a class around what I would call like the dad's greatest hits. Like go get a job, how to manifest things in your life, how to build a routine, how to get up early, how to set an alarm clock, how to run a to-do list. If you poll the average 20s somethings right now and ask them if they have a to-do list, a literal list of things that they need to accomplish in their day today, get it done, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that has anything.
Really? Is that true?
It's true.
Shit, I always say my lists have lists.
I know.
I've got more lists coming out of my ears.
And that's why you're a productive individual. So at any rate, that's the kind of thing.
That's super powerful what you're doing, and I would say that proximity is power, or who you hang out with. I mean, with those kids, if you're a wayward youth kid, you're hanging out with kids that are probably equal to you and helping them get out of that and into something else. We've always had to direct our kids when they were younger. I don't know if they know it, but we've had to help, if those kids that they're hanging with are wrong, we're going to pivot them. And they may not have noticed it necessarily, maybe at first, but we got to get them over there. We could see what's going on. And these kids are just further down that path. Yeah. Harder to get them where they need to go.
And so in one's personal life, I know this sounds kind of hippie, but I use the word attract because I literally do attract people in my life. And so one of the things I have in my vision statement is I attract cool and interesting people that push me to do things I haven't been able to do, right? Yet. And then
you're the second person I've met that has their own vision statement.
They probably hang out with me.
There's not many people that do. Mark Fuel, who I interviewed on my podcast, who is just a stud industry guy, ripping surf. He just turned 60, went out and caught 60 waves on his 60th birthday. We were on a Moab mountain biking trip. He was just at the surf ranch. Talk about high performer.
60's a lot of waves.
He did it a big sub 2 hours.
Wow.
I know. I don't know how he did. He's a monster.
That's a lot of waves.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm big on that. Putting people in my life that push me and drive me, right? That's this whole podcast. This the theme underlying theme here is I get cool and unique people, interesting people that I can get access to. I want to learn from them and share the knowledge. So, Mark, we've had a great hour here. I appreciate the time. I appreciate, more importantly, sharing with us your values, right, that come through here. The philanthropy is a big deal. I don't want to underplay that or underscore that. I think that a lot of people that I know from my business life and personal life want to do more, and they want to figure out how to do more. So thanks for the advice on how to get involved locally and find your passion around the philanthropy. And stay training. I know you will. I know we've got a few events coming up on the calendar here that we'll see you, and keep on doing what you do.
Right on. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time, bud.
Thank you. Hey, Mike here. Hope you liked this boardroom session. Please check back to our future sessions as we're recording a new one every month. If you want to reach out, look for me on LinkedIn or send me a note at mike@sidepath.com. That's Mike at sidepath.com.